The Galactic Coalition's military academy on Kepler 442b had trained warriors from 100 species across 3 centuries, but Instructor Drex had never witnessed anything quite like this. Drex was a Carvathi, a species renowned throughout the galaxy for producing the finest soldiers. Standing 9 feet tall with obsidian scales and 4 powerful arms, he had broken countless recruits who thought themselves ready for war. His yellow eyes had watched empires rise and fall. His claws had torn through battle armor in 17 campaigns. When he roared, even the bravest cadets trembled. But humans were different. They had arrived at the academy 6 months ago, a small delegation from a backwater planet called Earth, newly inducted into the coalition. Most species had dismissed them. Humans were weak by galactic standards. Their bones broke easily. They lacked natural armor, venom, or enhanced strength. They couldn't breathe methane like the Sulfurians or survive in vacuum like the Crystalline Collective. Drex had been assigned 10 human cubs, juveniles barely out of adolescence by their species standards. Among them was Arya, a female with dark skin and darker eyes that held something Drex couldn't quite name. She was smaller than the others, but she never backed down from any challenge. Today's training exercise was simple, a 40-foot climb up the gravitational resistance tower, followed by a rope traverse across the chasm field while battle drones fired stun rounds. Most species completed it within their first year. The human cubs were attempting it for the first time. Arya went third. Drex watched as she scaled the tower with determination etched into every movement. Her muscles strained. Humans were so fragile, but she kept climbing. 20 feet, 30 feet. The other human cubs shouted encouragement from below, a peculiar behavior Drex had noted before. Most species competed. Humans seemed to uplift each other. At 35 feet, her hand slipped. It happened in slow motion. The gravitational dampeners were offline for this exercise, part of the challenge. Arya's fingers scraped against the metal as she fell, tumbling backward through the air. She would survive. The safety fields would catch her before impact, but the failure would mark her record, possibly end her military career before it began. Then something extraordinary happened. The 9 other human cubs moved as one. They didn't think. They didn't calculate. They simply acted. They surged forward and positioned themselves beneath Arya's falling body, forming a living cushion. Their faces showed no fear of the impact, only fierce determination to protect their own. Arya crashed into them with bone-crunching force. The humans collapsed in a heap, absorbing the impact that should have been distributed across the safety fields. When the dust cleared, Arya was unconscious, bleeding from a gash on her forehead. 2 other cubs had fractured bones. Drex's sensors detected the breaks immediately, but they had caught her. These fragile creatures had thrown their own bodies into harm's way without hesitation. Drex approached, intending to call for medical assistance and reprimand them for their recklessness. The safety protocols existed for a reason. Their actions violated every regulation in the manual. That's when they did it. The 9 conscious human cubs, 3 of them injured, formed a protective circle around Arya's unconscious form. They faced outward, their weak bodies positioned between their fallen packmate and everything else in the universe, their lips pulled back, revealing their blunt omnivore teeth in what Drex's database identified as an aggressive display. And they growled. It was a pathetic sound by galactic standards. No subsonic resonance that could shatter stone. No ultrasonic frequencies that could disorient prey. Just a rumbling from their throats. A leftover instinct from whatever predator species they'd evolved from on their distant world. But their eyes. By the ancestors, their eyes. Drex had stared down Carvathi war chiefs. He'd faced battle-crazed Thraxians high on combat pheromones. He'd watched planetary defense fleets break formation and flee before overwhelming odds. None of it compared to the look in those human cubs' eyes as they stood over their fallen. They would die before they moved. Drex knew this with absolute certainty. These children, and they were children by any species standard, would fight him with their bare hands, would sacrifice themselves without question. If he took one step closer to Arya, "Medical team to training field 7, Drex said quietly into his comm, never breaking eye contact with the humans. "Multiple injuries, expedite." The humans didn't move. Didn't relax. One of them, a male named Marcus with a clearly broken wrist, growled louder, shifting his weight to shield Arya more completely. Drex slowly lowered himself to the ground, making himself smaller. It was a gesture of submission in 17 different species cultures, though he'd never performed it before. He placed all 4 hands on the ground, palms up. "I will not harm your pack member," he said in slow, clear Standard Galactic. "Medical assistance is arriving. You did well." The words felt strange in his mouth. They violated protocol, but they were true. The medical team arrived within minutes. A gelation medic who could interface with human biology. Only when Arya was safely on the hover stretcher, only when the medic confirmed she would survive, did the 9 cubs finally relax their guard. Several collapsed immediately, their adrenaline crashing, their injuries finally registering. That evening, Drex filed his incident report, but he also added a personal note, flagged for Coalition Command's attention. "Today I witnessed why humanity will change everything. They are weak individually, this is documented fact, but they possess something our databases cannot quantify. When one falls, they all fall. But they fall together, and in falling together, they become unbreakable. They don't calculate odds or consider regulations. They simply protect their own with a ferocity that transcends logic." 10 human cubs formed a shield around their fallen packmate and growled at me. Me, a Karvathi warrior with 400 years of combat experience. And for the first time in my life, I felt something I didn't recognize until later. I felt fear. Not fear of what they were, but fear of what they will become. The galaxy has never seen anything like humanity. When they grow beyond their cubs, when they take their place among the stars with that same protective fury. The universe itself will learn to step back when humans bare their teeth. Recommendation: fast-track all human cadets. We don't need to train the weakness out of them. We need to ensure they're on our side when the real war comes. 3 weeks later, Arya returned to training. A scar above her eye and 10 shadows who never let her climb alone again. Drex watched them and wondered what force in the cosmos had decided to gift the galaxy with humanity. And he was grateful, truly grateful, that humans considered the Coalition their pack, because he'd seen what humans did to threats outside their pack. He'd seen them growl,